Welcome back to New Rockstars. Are we now in a new era of Marvel films that will never make $1 billion? Or does this goalpost moving make us Marvel shills who are high on copium? We are not, unfortunately, but the smoggy, smoky air of Los Angeles does make us hallucinatory enough to think that our spec scripts and our headshots are sexier than they really are. This is the sneak peek! It's the weekly show on New Rockstars where we look ahead to the future of fandom. I'm Erik Voss, and Jessica Clemons had to binge the first half of Wednesday Season 2, which means we have the honor of Gina Ippolito joining us here today as our guest. Hi, Gina.
Hi everybody.
I'm so glad you could be here with us, because if you guys have been following the New Rockstars Network this week, we had a really interesting episode on the Breakroom channel on Tuesday where we talked about like the state of Marvel, specifically with these box office numbers from Fantastic Four First Steps going into its second weekend, how it had a 66, or as one commenter made sure to point out, 67% drop. Man, that really triggered him.
I think it's 67.1% now, Erik.
Excuse me. Oh, he didn't include that 0.1? Wow.
Oh.
Wow.
Ugh.
Wow.
Get
Well,
your facts straight.
He must be on the payroll too for leaving off that 0.1. It was 66 when we looked at the numbers when we started rolling, my man. Either way, somewhere between 66 and 67, or between 67 and 68% drop off from its first weekend to its second weekend, and how that was larger than expected, and how that freaked out the entertainment journalist ecosystem into thinking, wow, Marvel's in some trouble right now. Our position on the break room is that cool your jets. Marvel's been in this position before. There are other facts and figures that are making it a more complex situation than it seems, and that this isn't that bad, even though it is not great. It's not like the headline Marvel wanted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everyone is talking about this. I was listening to The Town today. Dan Murrell was talking about it. So it is something that everyone is talking about. And even though they're giving nuanced takes on it, the headlines are all like, oh no, like doom and gloom. So yeah, obviously not what Marvel wants.
Yes. But I do think it'd be good here on the sneak peek to do like a follow-up to that break room episode, now that like in the days since then, we've gotten even more facts and figures that kind of give us a richer picture of the situation. And one thing that I failed to do on the break room is acknowledge that I think the biggest thing that I got wrong going into the Fantastic Four First Steps film is just how successful it could be. Because, yeah, you can go back on the Rockstars channel and find several videos where I was like, Fantastic Four and Superman and Jurassic World Rebirth will all make $1 billion worldwide.
Yeah.
Not even close. I was so wrong about that. I didn't have Lilo and Stitch on my radar as doing as well as it did. I think of the three, globally, Jurassic World will end up doing the best. But here are the numbers as they are today, Wednesday, August 6th. Fantastic Four First Steps domestically has made somewhere between 201 and $207 million. Internationally has made somewhere between 170 and $175 million. Worldwide total is about 372 to 375. I don't know. My numbers are, but it's in that range. After its second discount Tuesday, we always look at the Tuesday numbers because AMC offers discount screenings, and that's when a lot of families summertime will go, and you'll see a higher Tuesday number than you do on Monday. But on Tuesday night, Fantastic Four First Steps made over $6 million, which is pretty decent. It topped the list of everything that was in movie theaters last night. And then going into this weekend, Variety is kind of wondering who will win the weekend. Will it be Fantastic Four First Steps in its third weekend? It's aiming to hit somewhere around 20 million. That would be a healthy drop off if it could make 20 million domestically in its third weekend. Freakier Friday, though, is also from Disney.
Taking the crown.
It could win the weekend.
Listen, don't underestimate the elder millennial spending habits.
Yeah. And Freakier Friday could make somewhere around like $25 or $30 million. Reviews are decent.
Yeah.
You know?
People are looking forward to that Lohan comeback. She looks great on the press tour. So
she looks like she's doing okay, and I think that's the baseline. But yeah, that is also a Disney release. So either way, Disney's doing pretty good. But also in the mix will be the horror film Weapons.
Yeah.
Which, so good.
Yeah.
Is being talked about as potentially the best movie of the year so far.
Yeah. A lot of people said it's their, I know some people who went to see an early screening. I know some people who read the script, and a lot of people are like, wow, this is just a good movie. This might be my favorite movie of the year. I'm a horror nut, so like I'm excited to see it. I'm seeing Naked Gun for the second time tonight because I just love comedy and I think it's hilarious and all my friends want to see it. So I don't count that one out. Comedies, obviously, they take less to make, so they don't have to make as much back. There's no like giant, CGI effects in that one. So I think that could also goose the, definitely like August is considered kind of a slow month, but so far we've seen a couple big hitters.
Yeah. There's by the time you're watching this on Sunday, you'll probably have a clearer picture of who ended up winning this weekend, but it's very likely that Fantastic Four First Steps comes in third, that Weapons overperforms, that Freakier Friday overperforms, and all three of them are kind of in that 20 to 30 million number domestically, which would be pretty good for all three of them. Really, really good for Freakier Friday and Weapons, if that's the case.
Yeah.
Considering Weapons was made for $38 million, it would mean it made back most of its money. Now, horror movies don't always do that well internationally.
Yeah.
But something like Weapons will have really good word of mouth, and that will stay in theaters into September.
Yeah. People are already in the Halloween mode.
Oh, yeah.
It's hot as hell, and people are like, remember October? Remember when it's cool outside? You get to watch horror movies? I'm going to go freeze my ass off in a theater and watch Weapons.
Yeah. New Rockstars has to like do something for this time of year. I think we all love horror films. We got to like figure out a way to start like a movie club or something of like our horror movies. But they have Fantastic Four First Steps will definitely stay in theaters through the end of August, probably the first couple weeks in September. They're going to check it week to week to see how well it's doing. But overall, it has made a total of about $370-something million, maybe closer to $400 million by the time you're watching this. And that number will increase somewhere to, by the time this is all said and done, somewhere around over the 500 million range worldwide, maybe 550, maybe if they get a second wind or something close to 600 million, but probably not. It's probably going to wrap up somewhere around the 540, 550 million worldwide.
Yeah. Definitely not what Marvel was hoping, but also not the death knell that some headlines are making it out to be.
And we've talked about some of the reasons why that's the case, specifically that they've sold $200 million worth of product placements for this movie. So that's a bonus on top of everything that makes it look, at least financially, like a healthier release than it seems.
Yeah, absolutely. And on The Town this morning, they were talking about how the days of, Lilo and Stitch did hit $1 billion for first movie of the year to hit $1 billion, but the days of that happening are becoming rarer and rarer.
Yeah.
So maybe that's not the marker anymore. Maybe it is to have a success. Instead, it hits $800 million, which I think Fantastic Four will be closer to that, obviously, than it will be to $1 billion. But for right now, like, people are broke. There's a lot of other stuff going on. Movie tickets are expensive as hell, especially like if you're in one of the major cities, LA or New York. And if you have a family and it's more than just you, like, they are so expensive and people are broke. And I think expecting people to, like, the days of people going to see movies in theaters 2 or 3 times, which, pre-pandemic, I think people would go see those Marvel movies 2 or 3 times. I think those days are over, because how do you justify spending $100 for, a family of 4 going to see a movie more than once? So yeah, I think this might just be sort of the new normal, as opposed to a death knell for one specific studio or one specific, like, and same with like TV shows aren't doing the same ratings that they were. So it's just entertainment across the board is not getting the same eyeballs that it used to.
Right. Monoculture is dead. It's been dead for a while now. And I think there were some releases after COVID that extended the lifespan to make us think we were back.
Yes.
So Spider-Man No Way Home made $1 billion. It's the third or fourth highest grossing movie of all time. Deadpool and Wolverine made over $1 billion when all the numbers were counted. And then there were other releases like Oppenheimer and Barbie that were also seeing similar numbers.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, this is possible. Top Gun Maverick made money. If we can just find the right kind of movie. I remember that was the kind of optimism that was coursing through Las Vegas at CinemaCon in April.
Yeah.
That like maybe one of these releases could do it. It ended up Lilo and Stitch could. But I was definitely wrong in thinking that we're going to see a turkey of Superman, Fantastic Four, and Jurassic World. Just to give some context, Superman will end up doing better than Fantastic Four and domestically better than Jurassic World. As of this weekend, Superman has made $318 million domestic, $237 million worldwide, international, for a combined total of $555 million. That domestic number of 318 is as of this taping has already passed, Jurassic World's Rebirth number, which as of Wednesday was at 318 million domestic. However, neither Superman nor Fantastic Four will catch Jurassic World Rebirth total global number, because Jurassic World Rebirth has done incredibly well internationally as of this taping at $768 million and will probably end its run at $800 million. So of the three, Jurassic World has won if you look at the entire global number. Bob Iger was kind of making some interesting comments. Some say he's moving the goalposts, but I think he gave some interesting context. Bob Iger, of course, is the chairman of Walt Disney Studios, or the Walt Disney Company. He's not the head of the studio. There's someone else beneath him who's the head of the studio.
Make your churros at the park cheaper, Iger.
Yeah, I know. Let's start there. But I will say the churros are the best bang for your buck.
They're real delicious.
They're really good. Bob Iger said, "We continue to be focused on creating new IP. Obviously, that's of great value to us long term, but we also know that the popularity of our older IP remains significant, and the opportunities to either produce sequels or convert what was previously animation to live action, like what we're doing with Moana in 2026, it's just a great opportunity for the company and supports our franchise. So I wouldn't say that we've got a priority one way or another. Our priority is to put out great movies that ultimately resonate with consumers. The more we can find and develop original property, the better. Of course, we are developing original property under the 20th Century banner and under the Searchlight banner. And look, you could even argue that Marvel continues to mine its library of characters for original property. Even though, for instance, there have been Fantastic Four movies before, we kind of consider the one we did an original property in many respects, because we're introducing those characters to people who are not familiar with them at all. So was this Bob Iger admitting that maybe the reason Fantastic Four First Steps didn't blow up the way some of us thought is that it's not actually a sequel or even a legacy sequel to anything? It is an original IP.
Listen, this is Bob Iger's politician speak.
Yeah.
This is his CEO speak. Like everyone who is in Hollywood who has tried to pitch a show or sell a movie knows that the first thing that they tell you is like, well, we're mainly interested right now in IP. And like he can call it what it is. Fantastic Four is IP. And that is mostly what Disney and even like 20th are focused on. They're focused on dusting off old IP. Also, like obviously, or maybe not obviously, but like Disney has to, these live action remakes, they have to do those sort of to hold on to the rights. Every few years, they sort of have to release a new movie. Otherwise the rights could get wonky. But they're definitely, Hollywood is still mostly interested in IP right now. And so for Bob Iger to be like, no, we just want to tell a good story. It's like, you want to do what's going to make you the most money. And right now what's going to make you the most money is the most recognizable character. And I think that's what we're seeing with Superman. Superman, like we've had a lot of debates of which is the better movie. I know you think Superman is the better movie. I liked both of them. I think I slightly preferred Fantastic Four just because like Vanessa Kirby was, so great. It was great to finally see that character kicking ass instead of just like getting naked and being like, oh no, my clothes. But I also loved Superman, but you can't deny that he's the more recognizable character. And that is why it's one of the reasons why it's doing better. So the bigger the IP, I mean, if Lilo and Stitch was just like, hey, look at this Disney movie about like a weird like a live action Disney movie about a weird blue alien and a little girl, people would be like, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
But like Lilo and Stitch movie, all the people who grew up loving Lilo and Stitch are going to see it. I think like IP is not going away anytime soon. And I think Bob Iger is kind of being like, let me put on my CEO hat right here and make it sound great to the shareholders.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's kind of either moving the goalposts or just reframing how it's a success, even though he's not technically wrong.
Right.
Fantastic Four is lesser known.
You can make those numbers say anything.
Yes.
You can dress them up and package them and use them to say like, we're all doomed. You can dress them up and package them to say like, we're doing great.
We here at the Sneak Peek love a good meal, but we don't always have time to cook or shop or really the energy to do both after we get home from the office. That's the exact reason why we love Factor meals. Factor has chef-made gourmet meals that make eating deliciously and eating well easy. They're dietitian approved and ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes. Factor can help you feel your best all day long with wholesome smoothies, breakfasts, grab-and-go snacks, and more add-ons. 97% of customers say that Factor helped them live a healthier life, and looking at the weekly choices, it's not hard to see why. There are a ton of options for eating healthy, and now Factor has added more GLP-1 friendly meals and new Mediterranean diet options packed with protein and good-for-you fats. Factor's also added Asian-inspired meals with bold flavors influenced by China, Thailand, and more. I think my favorite meal this week was the fiery Szechuan chicken and sesame cabbage. It packs some serious heat, but like not in a way that overwhelmed flavor, you know? The chicken was perfectly cooked, the rice blend helped balance the heat, and the vegetable medley was a great savory counterpart to the spice. Eat smart at factormeals.com/newrockstars50 off and use code newrockstars50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code newrockstars50 off at factormeals.com for 50% off plus free shipping. Get delicious, ready-to-eat meals delivered with Factor. I think there's also probably some lessons to be learned from the marketing side and the publicity side of how to best sell a movie. I don't think either of these movies were poorly sold. I think they, between Superman and Fantastic Four, both had a pretty well-run marketing campaign, some interesting press moments. I think the way the things were unveiled, I think the trailers were all pretty well cut and thematically resonant. I think there were maybe some marketing hiccups with Fantastic Four to put Ivan Malkovich in a teaser before you knew for sure he was going to be in the movie.
Yeah.
And I do think you do sense some recutting, that there was an original version of Fantastic Four that you don't get with Superman. Superman seemed to be pretty straightforward, the story James Gunn wanted to tell.
Yeah, which makes sense because Gunn has said he actually has he will not start a movie without a finished script, which is not sort of how other people at Marvel do it. So it makes sense that Gunn goes in with a vision, executes it, and then that's what comes out.
But I can't see an example in Fantastic Four First Steps where that kind of improvisation really lifted the story in the way that Avengers Endgame benefited from I am Iron Man as the thing he says before he snaps. Avengers Endgame definitely had some we'll figure it out as we go that the Russo brothers were able to effectively structure into that. Fantastic Four First Steps, my favorite parts of it are things that seemed pretty locked from storyboard art to begin with and things that were near and dear to Matt Shakman. The birth of Franklin Richards through that black hole sequence, I thought was one of the most stunning sequences we've ever seen.
Yeah,
and they didn't
agreed.
Come up with that on the fly.
Right. And I think in the case of Fantastic Four, it was less oh crap, we need to reshoot stuff, and more just oh, we shot too much. We don't want this movie to be 2.5 hours long. Let's cut certain scenes. It's not sort of the Captain America Brave New World, which you could sort of be oh, this was clearly supposed to be a bigger storyline. This was clearly supposed to be a different storyline. It seemed like it was a pretty cohesive vision from start to finish. They just cut some stuff.
Yeah. I think ultimately, though, Fantastic Four First Steps, I do need to at least reconcile what happened here where I thought this movie had a chance of making $1 billion and it never did. Was it just a smaller IP than I was thinking? I was just thinking we've seen examples before maybe it was James Gunn's Superman. Like, if James Gunn's Superman had a chance to make $1 billion, Fantastic Four would have. But I think both of those characters, yes, have been characters that on screen have not necessarily popped with everybody in the past, or were, you know, like, not the huge box office performers that Batman movies have been, for example. And maybe that was why. There was just a lower ceiling that I should have kept in mind. But I still really like both of these movies. And so I think there are other contributing circumstances for why they don't have a ceiling of like 800 million even. There's no real clear path to them getting $1 billion. So I want to talk about some of the roadblocks that are in those paths. Gina, you touched on a few of them, right? The idea of just family budgetary situations, you know, like it costs so much to go out and do this kind of thing, especially if you have family. And if you have young kids, childcare is even crazier. You got to hope you have a grandma who doesn't do anything that Friday night, who you haven't asked to do a ton of things already.
I mean, again, you know, like growing up, like I'm from a small town in New Jersey, and there was only like so much to do in our town. Like it was like either like you go to the 24-hour diner if you're a teenager, or you go to the movies. And like back then, if there was a new movie out, you were like, yeah, let's just go see it. And now it is like people sort of have to plan their, if you went and saw Superman and you're a family of 4, maybe you don't have the budget to then like go see Fantastic Four. Or again, maybe you would have seen it twice, but now you're like, well, I'll watch it once in the theater and then once when it comes out on Disney Plus, which is another huge thing, is streaming.
So I think that is a real contributing thing and might be the most important contributor. Streaming, though, let's talk about streaming, because I think a lot of people can point to the post-COVID eras when Disney Plus was a big part of our lives. I think it affects some theatrical releases, but not all. Deadpool and Wolverine released when Disney Plus was just as big now as it was then.
Which maybe people were worried about spoilers for that too. Like in this sort of like spoilery world, that to me seems like a movie where it's like, who's gonna cameo? We know there's gonna be some big ones. We know there's gonna be some big moments. I gotta see this in the theater so that it's not like spoiled for me. And maybe Fantastic Four, it wasn't presented as like, hey, we're gonna have a ton of huge moments that everyone is gonna spoil for you if you don't see it in the theater. So maybe people were thinking, well, I'll wait for it to be on Disney Plus.
I think that's a easy excuse. I'm not saying it's not real. I think it does happen for a lot of viewers, but I don't think it affects. I think there's a lot of people on the internet who say that it affected their decision, but I think like if we were to talk to our brothers and our cousins, I don't think they're thinking, I'm going to wait for the Disney Plus. You want to know why? Because none of them subscribe to Disney Plus. Disney Plus is not like Netflix. Its subscription numbers are still pretty small compared to those.
My brother uses my password.
If anything, they password share, or they don't. That's the one they don't subscribe to. Like they're more likely to subscribe to Hulu than Disney Plus. Now that Hulu and Disney Plus are merging, that could change.
Smoosh those two together.
But I think it does affect it, just not that much. If Deadpool and Wolverine suffered, then yes. If Spider-Man No Way Home suffered, then yes. But people like, that was December 2021. People were just starting to get vaccinated at that point. Like, or no, people were getting vaccinated the previous months. But even then, a lot of people were afraid to go into movie theaters, and they still did it. And it was probably for the spoiler effect, as you said. They want to see Toby and Andrew pop up. And I'm not saying that's the right answer for all Marvel movies, because like, Oppenheimer got nearly $1 billion. Barbie got nearly $1 billion, or got over $1 billion. Top Gun Maverick did. Lilo and Stitch did. So there's something else. Inside Out 2 was Pixar's highest grossing, the highest grossing animated film of all time. Minecraft. All these movies are doing really, really, really well. So there is some other kind of special sauce that like these recent Marvel releases have not tapped into, of creating an essential viewing experience. And it might be, in the Fantastic Four's case, like, I don't want to blame the cast, but like Pedro Pascal might be the biggest star of the four of them. And he's not like the Robert Downey Jr. size global superstar.
Right.
He's not The Rock.
Yeah.
He's not.
I will say that it had a more famous cast, or more well-known cast, than Superman.
Yeah.
You know, like unless you're a huge Marvelous Mrs. Maisel fan, which I am, but like, you know, my litmus test is always like my mom. Like if I said to her David Cornsweet, she would be like, oh, I don't know who that is. If I said Pedro Pascal, she'd be like, oh, he keeps popping up on Entertainment Tonight or whatever he's doing this week.
But I do think James Gunn made up for that with Superman, with a really, really aggressive marketing campaign with himself and those three. They were everywhere in a way that the Fantastic Four cast and Matt Shakman just were not. And James Gunn is a star. He's almost like a fourth star of that movie. Matt Shakman has mostly been a TV director. And he's great. I think Matt Shakman totally proved his ability with this movie, but he's just going into it. He doesn't have the cult of personality around him that James Gunn has had over the past 10 years.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think like the answer is that it's both of these things combined. It's a lot of things combined. I think, streaming, I personally think definitely contributes to it. I think, back in the day where it was you had to wait months for something to come out on TV or on DVD or what have you, it did seem like, oh God, do I really want to wait 6 months? And now it's like, I can wait 2 months or I can wait a month. And I think people sort of pick and choose what movies do I have to see in the theater if I'm going to be spending $20 on a ticket, which like, in LA, a single ticket can cost you $20. I know that like in some parts of the country that seems insane, and it is. But like that is, like to just drop an extra $20 twice or 2 or 3 times a month, that's a lot.
Yeah. I think we should cite, a lot of people just say superhero fatigue. That's like, the Variety Entertainment Weekly, a go-to thing. They say superhero fatigue. I don't deny the existence of superhero fatigue, but I do deny its power. I think there are some people who are like, I can't keep up with all this lore and homework. Yeah. But I think the studios have been aware of that. And James Gunn made Superman with a sharp awareness of that. And he tried to make a movie that could cut through all of that. And I believe with Fantastic Four First Steps, Marvel did as well. It's a complete reset. You don't need to know anything going into Fantastic Four First Steps. However, I think we do have to note that Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, a mouthful of a title, in May 2022 did insane numbers. It had a huge opening, and that was after Spider-Man No Way Home. So was that just like lingering tailwind from Spider-Man No Way Home? Was it the excitement of seeing Charles Xavier show up? And really we can compare that to like the numbers we'll see for Avengers Doomsday when you have or Deadpool and Wolverine when you have X-Men crossovers in a movie. It does lift its box office.
It's also Sam Raimi super fans, the Sam Raimi people who are like, I gotta see every Sam Raimi movie.
It's just weird to think of a Benedict Cumberbatch Benedict Cumberbatch movie because he's a star, but not like, I think Pedro Pascal might be on the same tier of Benedict Cumberbatch. Yeah,
it's hard to see. Like you would have to sort of like look at their like box office numbers. I think like, I'm primarily a comedy writer, and every year or so there will be a think piece about like the death of comedy. And then it'll be like, oh, they're not making single cams. They're not making multicams. They're not making this. They're not making that. And then a year later, they will have something that's like, oh, it's back. Like it's back. Like, look at how well Abbott Elementary is doing. And now there's another Big Bang spinoff, whatever. And I think that, people want clicks. And by saying like, is this genre dead, or do we have this fatigue? Like I've seen everything from like, superhero fatigue, I think is the most common refrain, but people also say like, oh, is there horror fatigue? If 2 or 3 horror movies come out in a row that don't do well, people are like, is horror dead? If 2 or 3 comedies come out in a row, people are like, is comedy dead? Are period pieces dead? Is this dead? Is that dead? And I think it's just people are looking for something to sell clicks. And, superhero movies are one of the easiest targets because you do have high profile people being like, I'm not really into this genre. Or like, is this genre for kids? Is this genre just for nerds? You can say that about everything. Like horror has its nerds, comedy has comedy nerds. I think that declaring like something fatigue, the next time a big movie that everyone comes out, that everyone likes that comes out, like then people are going to be like, it's back. And that happens like every other year. It's dead, it's back, it's dead, it's back. Superhero fatigue, superhero genre is back. Superhero fatigue, superhero genre is back. It's not going to die. It's going to always be here. It will just go through natural slumps.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. And I think it is a real thing that is happening, just like it's an overstated cause of these declining box office numbers. I do think there's at least one other thing, maybe a second thing that really is affecting the numbers we're seeing. I think the decline of Marvel's brand and the brand of superhero cinema from Hollywood internationally. Yeah. And we can't even see that as well because we're here in America and we're within the bubble of Los Angeles. But what we're really seeing is Chinese audiences and audiences in several other countries who used to see them in bigger numbers than they did, not seeing them as well. So specifically, like, when a Marvel movie opens in China, if it gets Chinese film distribution rights, it's not the number 1 movie. It's like the number 6 or the number 7 movie. That's a huge drop off. And there's a lot of cultural and political reasons why that's the case. Now, Marvel is still a pretty big brand. Disney's a pretty big brand in countries like India, in Brazil, countries with huge populations with some capital to be able to go see movies at whatever their local cinema is. Pretty big in France and Japan and some of these other markets, obviously big in the UK and the English-speaking world in Australia. But in these markets, specifically in China, that's how big the Chinese film market is. And that number has declined. I think a good, interesting comparison point, 2014's Captain America Winter Soldier. So this was before Age of Ultron. This is before Civil War. It was before Phase 3 when Marvel really started to blow up to have billion dollar release. You started to see some good box office performers, but like some realistic box office performers. Winter Soldier, you know, Chris Evans, Anthony Mackie fighting the government, the U.S. government, made $260 million domestically. Fantastic Four First Steps is going to easily pass that. But Winter Soldier made $455 million in other territories. And Fantastic Four First Steps is not going to hit that number. It's not even going to come close. And so worldwide total for Winter Soldier was $714 million. It's pretty good. And, you know, that's going to be about close to $200 million less that Fantastic Four makes. However, they did make up for it with lots of product placement cash. So you can kind of offset the numbers, but I think it does tell a story there. It tells a story that Captain America Winter Soldier was specifically a story of like a hero going rogue against the U.S. military and U.S. government establishment that maybe Chinese film audiences back in 2014 were like, yeah, I'd go see a movie about that. But whatever, they don't want to see another story about a space kaiju stomping around a city and a family trying to save their baby. Like, they're, for whatever reason, they're just not as interested on that type of story.
I mean, there has been, you know, like a rise in the quality of films around the world. You know, even like a lot of U.S. films are shooting internationally now. And, you know, if you look at the success of a lot of the shows on Netflix, there are Korean shows that are very popular, and movies, and they're sort of more mainstream now than they were 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. So I don't think people are hanging on to the edge of their seat for the latest American release, sort of the way they used to be. And I also do think that, you know, and I think that Marvel is now sort of course correcting this, but they did sort of water down their brand by releasing as much as they did. You know, they have so many live action shows a year, so many animated shows a year, and so many movies a year. You know, in recent memory, there's 3 movies. So it isn't like a once a year event like it used to be. And I think that's why they're sort of scaling back, you know, to the detriment of shows of promoting TV shows like Eyes of Wakanda and Ironheart, which we all realized, like, they were like, hey, why aren't they promoting these? If you have Ryan Coogler, who just had one of the most popular movies, like, directing a show on your network, why are you not promoting it? And I think it was clear that they were like, well, we're putting everything into the promotion of Fantastic Four, and we don't want to distract from that. And now I think they're a little bit warier of releasing too many shows a year, too many animated shows a year, and too many movies a year. And I think that even that correction will sort of help to fix the problem. If you're only releasing 1 movie a year, if you're only releasing 1 live action show a year, and you're only releasing 1 animated show a year, people are going to be much more hyped for it.
Yeah. And I think it might be an issue of because these movies have been in development for so long and that Marvel greenlit them before they learned these lessons. They're already committed to the budgets. They're already paying actors, artists, directors, sets to be built. They already started shooting some stuff for it. Now, Fantastic Four First Steps does seem like the first movie they made post learning these lessons. I really like Thunderbolts. I like Thunderbolts better, but that was a movie that was in development for a long time. And I think ultimately cost less than Fantastic Four First Steps. But like, we'll see. I'm just curious to see if Avengers Doomsday really applied some of these lessons, or if they're just going back to the playbook for Doomsday, because they're spending a lot of money on talent. And I think an important lesson to learn is like, if Superman can succeed with names as big as those are, then there's no reason to think that when you do an X-Men movie, you need to cast huge names for it.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that Doomsday will get all of the people who claim to have abandoned Marvel.
Yeah.
I think it will get all of them back. I think just the promise of old characters coming back, maybe for the last time, and seeing, and it's a very well-known sort of comic story, so you get the comics fans. I personally think it will make a bunch of money, but like we've been saying that, about a lot of these movies, and we've been wrong. So who knows?
I feel like everyone who saw Deadpool and Wolverine and Multiverse of Madness will come back for Avengers Doomsday.
Yeah.
Now, still, that may not be enough in order to justify it, because they're paying, this is going to be one of the most expensive movies ever made by the end of it all.
I mean, there was an interesting point made on The Town today, which was that Marvel has one of the highest butts in seats the opening weekend of a film of any of the other companies, again, probably because people are worried about spoilers. They want to be able to talk to their friends about it. But it is most of the people who desperately want to see it, the regular fans, if you will, are buying tickets for that opening weekend.
Yeah.
So the drop off wasn't that crazy if you look at that. But I think maybe the difference is that those super fans might have back in the day bought a ticket for another weekend and a ticket for another weekend, and now they're less likely to do that.
The one other reason I teased that I think might contribute to why people aren't seeing movies at least a second and a third time is the rise of premium viewing experiences and those feeling necessary. It used to be like, I feel like when I grew up in the Florida suburbs, I could just go to the local whatever movie theater and see the same Titanic that other people were seeing in New York and LA. Now you have so many options of IMAX, Dolby, Screen X, 3D versus non-3D, IMAX 70 millimeter. Ryan Coogler walked through all the options. Prime digital versus laser. It's so confusing. And movie exhibitors are using these as a gimmick to upsell the viewing experiences. And a lot of these movies you do not need to see in what IMAX says or what AMC says is IMAX. If you go to the AMC Burbank 16, what they call the IMAX screen there is not IMAX. It's just a larger than normal screen that they can shoot or they can project stuff in that aspect ratio, but it's not technically big enough to be an IMAX screen. The only one right now that exists in LA is at City Walk, and I believe there's another one at the Howard Hughes Center. They're building more, but like, really, the biggest IMAX screen on the West Coast is the Metreon in San Francisco. Also, you don't need to see everything in the Metreon. It's like, sometimes it's like too big, and the only good way to see it is to sit in the back 3 rows. Otherwise, you're literally looking around, and that's not the way you should. As immersive as it is, that's not how the film was composed in the post-production bay. So I love seeing movies in Dolby, but like, ideally, for most American families, you shouldn't have to see a movie in one of these premium screenings. And because they're so expensive, and because more and more AMC theaters, because like a lot of these smaller cinemas are closing down, and everything's like an AMC or a Regal or a Cinemark, and they're all buying into these sales from Screen X and Dolby and whatever it is, it means that there's more and more premium showings and fewer just regular showings of something.
Yeah, and people's home setups now are dope as crap.
Yeah.
Like, people have huge TVs, they've got surround sound, so I think in their minds, they're like, well, I'd rather see it in the comfort of my own home, blah, blah, blah.
I don't have to deal with kids on their phones the whole time.
That's the thing, is like the pandemic, there is a portion of the population whose brains were broken by the pandemic. And when they're out in public, they think that it is their own personal like dumping ground. They're taking their phones out. They're talking during movies. And I think it's like every day you open like the Threads app and people are like, someone demanded my seat on a plane. And I think that there are just people who, whatever happened during the pandemic, they forgot how to act in public.
Yeah.
And they forgot how to deal with other people. And whereas there was once a time where you're like, I want to see this movie with a bunch of strangers who are all enjoying it. Now it's like, I don't want to go to a movie theater if the person to my right, the person to my left, and the person in front of me are like playing on their phones the entire time, when I could just watch it at home by myself and not deal with that. And I think that we've all experienced that. We've all experienced someone like taking a phone call in the middle of a theater, which is insane, you guys. Like, that's insane. Just go turn off your phone for 2 hours. Like, you will survive.
Yes, I think cell phones have broken us, and that is a difference between 2014 and 2025. There are far more people with smartphones now, and the culture has even shifted. Yes, people have their phones out. Also, this is going to sound like old man yells at cloud. I'm saying this as an older man, a graying man who still feels a magical joy every time Nicole Kidman walks onto screen. I still get giddy. I love seeing a movie on a big screen. And if everyone was on their phone, I could still probably block it out. But it is just chipping away at the margins in a way that's just making it kind of annoying. The only movie theater to actually enforce cell phone policy is Alamo Drafthouse. I like the experience, but having waiters moving in and out and bringing your bill to you at the most critical moment of a movie fucks up the movie-going experience. Yeah. And that's worse than a few people having their phones out in a movie theater. So can't we have like one AMC screening per night that just says people have to turn in their phones and put it in lock boxes, or they're really going to enforce phone usage and actually throw people out? Like, I would pay a premium for that. I would pay a premium for like no food. Like, no food in this theater, no alcohol.
Yeah, this is a distraction-free zone.
And I know you're going to be like, wait, no alcohol? Who is this teetotaler or whatever the term is? I'm saying that because when people drink, they're more willing to talk loudly and they go to the bathroom more often. So people will walk across you. If I could have a screen where everyone committed to wear adult diapers, I would pay that premium too. Like, because I'm just like, this is distracting if you come in late, to enforce a late policy. But what's really happening is like people are having to pay more for these premium screenings, and it's not really a premium experience. Yeah,
it is. And again, like, if your home setup is sweet enough, there is obviously it can't compete with something like IMAX, but there is a comfort in, I know that I can watch this with no distractions if I want to. I mean, unless you've got like a bunch of kids at home then.
If you got kids, or if you live in the part of LA where there's helicopters flying over your house every 5 minutes, that's a whole thing. I also just feel like, and I feel this way, this is more for like theme parks, if you go to Disney or Universal or something like that, everything has to run through your phone. Like, your phone is how you check in. Yeah. Your phone is how you like pay for stuff. You order ahead. So everything's on your phone. Everyone's got a stupid phone. When you go to restaurants, it's all on your phone. Like, I'd rather hold a paper menu, please. Like, but I know, old man screaming at cloud, people disagree. I hate how many like touch screens there are everywhere. I will not drink soda at a movie theater if it's out of one of those big dispensers to where you can push, because the cherry Coke from
you can get exactly what you want though, Erik. You can customize it.
It tastes wrong. It tastes wrong. The cherry Coke from that does not taste like cherry Coke. It tastes like weird watered down grenadine and like an overly carbonated thing that doesn't taste like Coke. It's always off. Like, it tastes weirdly like whatever orange version of it came out from the person in front of you. So like, the only way to get an actual correct flavor is to get the Coke Icy, because that has the proper mix. And now I look like a little boy with a big Icy, but I'm like, that's the only way I'm going to get an actual Coke flavor. But everyone, I think all you youngins who are 22, 23, you grew up in a world like this, but I'm telling you, you missed out on a better tasting world where cereal and Coke used to taste better. But now also we have, Washington's trying to take red dye out of everything. So we're on a losing. But I just think like that experience, I don't want to have to touch a sticky screen where some kid who was picking his nose before me also touched it. And I'm like, I don't want to have to touch that screen. Like, just have someone who's working the counter go up to, that's why I still love like the Vista in LA, because they have like, if it's like the Chipotle style, like you go up and if you want cherry Coke, there's one thing that distributes cherry Coke, one thing that distributes Coke Zero. And I just hate a machine that does it all. So again, it's at the margins, it's stupid, but it's also just like everything doesn't taste as good. All these little things that used to be so magical in the same way every time have all been gradually stripped away from us, so that the movie going experience is just like, all these frustrations add up at the end of the night.
I do think that they're trying to spend money on like, let's make everything IMAX, but really you should just put 2 ushers in there to sniper dart anyone who takes their phone out.
Or to like zap their phone so it just turns off and it's locked for 2 hours. Invent a technology that can make it like a dead zone in there to where people can't get on the internet.
Yeah, go to only watch movies on the Lost Island.
That has to be doable. It has to be doable to where like you can just disable people's phones within a room. I guess for emergency purposes you don't want to do that.
Yeah, but I'm sure that there have been plenty of talks among the I assume shady gentlemen who own these movie theaters that are like, what can we do about these phones? Hub, 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 hub. And they probably thought of that. But really, what you got to do is you got to pay some kid $15 an hour to be in that theater to go over and be like, put your phone away, mother effer.
Yeah. I mean, I'm saying this as someone who has often made the case, like, you can't control spoilers on the internet. Just let people be people. And so I get that there's a huge hypocrisy in me making this argument that we have to preserve culture in some way. But I think if you're like paying to go to something, like when you go to see a play, and maybe this isn't a good example because we don't want movies to become like theater, where it costs like $100 to go.
I do want Patti LuPone to yell at people in movie theaters if they take out their phone, though.
Patti LuPone used to, like, maybe she just needs to hang out, like sit there in a director's chair in front of a screen.
Just at the AMC. You, 5th row, what are you doing there?
Put your phone away. That is one reason when I do get to go to a press screening for a movie. They usually have private security in there since it's an early screening to just keep an eye on things to make sure people don't have their phones out because it's early. They don't want spoilers to get out.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that because you don't see phones out at those screenings.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, you know, we both saw a press screening of Fantastic Four, and everyone in there seemed like, to me, that they were a little bit older, which means that they were sort of like old school journalists. You know, the gentleman next to me had a notebook out and was taking notes. He wasn't taking notes on his phone. And they all respected the person who came out and was like, hey, this is direct from Disney. Once the movie starts, do not take your phone out. And I didn't see anyone with their phone out. I think everyone sort of took it seriously, like, oh, most of the people here are trying to review this film, and that will like affect the review if every third person is like, let me check my...
Or if they miss something because they're distracted. If they miss a line of dialogue that they think is critical to their understanding of the movie. So they don't want to have a distraction-filled environment. But that standard should also exist for everyone who sees a movie anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's. I remember seeing A Quiet Place and like people were talking during that, and I was like, it's a perfectly quiet movie. What are you doing?
In the title of the movie. Okay, so I think all of these if you could say any one of the factors we talked about contributing to movies having a lower ceiling, which would you say is probably the most to blame for that?
I think it's a combination of everything, but what's most to blame is that people are so broke right now.
Yeah. Yep. I think you're right. I think that is the number one reason. It's not any kind of cultural shift as much. Streaming contributes to it. International fatigue on American brands is contributing to it. The decline of the movie-going experience is contributing to it for sure. The oversaturation of the market of superhero movies might be contributing to it as well. But really, it's just the cost. And if there's something they could do more to address the cost, I don't know how you do that in the inflated world we live in.
I mean, everything is expensive, and you know I mentioned this on our episode of the Breakroom, but they've done studies that when everything gets more expensive, entertainment is the first thing to fall off. So that's when people cancel their streaming services. That's when people reduce their entertainment budget in general, because you can't really reduce your grocery budget or your gas budget, but you can reduce the number of movies you see in a year, and you can reduce the number of services that you have. You can't reduce your utilities. And I think that is what is going on. You know, like people are broke, they're unemployed, and they have to like pick maybe like one movie every 3 months to see, or not even that. And so they can't do the back-to-back of Superman and Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. Well, we'll see how these lessons get addressed in future Marvel titles, specifically if they do recognize that they're really only going to, because this is the third within 6 months that Marvel has released, and I don't think we're going to see that again for a long time.
Government, give us $100 entertainment budget a month.
Yeah, give us a voucher.
Send us those checks.
Give us some money. I promise I'll spend it on movies. and not on Chipotle. Although it might be also very good for the economy overall if I do spend it on Chipotle.
News today, Chipotle is now booming, apparently due to one man who's spending all of his government checks on extra sour cream.
Yeah, I mean, ideally we'd spend it on some local business, some Corner Cottage or what are the other ones in LA? I go to all of them all the time. I should know them.
Yeah.
Coffee Commissary
Corner Cottage is a good one. Porto's.
A non-chain. Yeah, although Porto is now a chain. Porto's, you will always get a lot of my money. I love you guys. Okay, so currently elsewhere on New Rockstars in the Breakroom channel, we're in kind of the dog days of summer right now, but I did a whole video breaking down the Alien and Predator timeline, headed into Alien Earth and Predator Badlands later this year. That's on the New Rockstars channel. You can check that out. We broke down, kind of explained the plot structure and what's going on with the movie Weapons, some deeper details that you might have missed. Really had a lot of fun making that video.
Jess has a great Eyes of Wakanda.
Yes.
Marvel didn't promote it, but we sure will.
We sure will. Again, Jess is working on a breakdown of Wednesday on Netflix, so that video will be coming out on the New Rockstars channel tomorrow or Tuesday.
And something you've been clamoring for.
Oh yeah,
Rick and Morty. We got it coming out finally.
I think it's out already. Yeah. So go watch that video. Gina wrote it, did a great job finding everything in it. Some other announcements will be forthcoming at the New Rockstars company. But let's end this episode with what we're watching. Besides all this superhero big franchise stuff, are there other things you've been watching this week, Gina, that you really love?
Good. I mean, I'm in my rewatching horror stuff era, so I will be watching. I will be watching Wednesday. I just rewatched the original Hellraiser.
Fun.
Which is great.
Yeah.
And also the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Both those movies had about $1 million budget. Both of them made between $37 and $47 million. Wow. So that's a great. But yeah, I mean, other than that, Sandman season 2 on Netflix has been a big fan of that comic, even though the author has now done terrible things and has been canceled. Season 2 of the show is still great.
The show itself.
The show and nothing else. And the actors.
I watched The Naked Gun this past week. It's the hardest I've laughed at a movie. I was trying to think, when was the last time I saw a movie in a movie theater that made me laugh that hard? And I think... MacGruber, it reminds me of MacGruber because it's the same director. It's not as good as MacGruber is, but it's still really good.
Yeah.
And I think it was the David Wayne, they came together in 2014. So that was 11 years ago. There just haven't been a lot of comedies that I've gone to see. I didn't see, what was the Tim Robinson one that came out earlier this year? Friendship?
Yeah.
I meant to see that.
Yeah,
I didn't have a chance to. But I need to see it again because there's so many jokes that I missed in it, I bet. It just felt so good to laugh in a room full of people at a movie again.
Yeah, my audience they were ready to laugh. They came in, they weren't entertain me. The first line of that movie, there's a row of people that are cracking up and I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be fun.
Yeah. They, I saw it at a Monday night screening at one of the back theaters at an AMC.
Yeah.
One of the small ones. It was packed and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
With only the coolest people of Los Angeles. All these what are they called? The secret movie club, the Cinespia crowd. These cool hit people. Just cool tattoos and they got long hair and cool facial hair. And
I saw it in North Hollywood on a Sunday matinee, so there were a lot of families. It was the exact opposite. It was like dads who were like, I want to see Naked Gun. If you guys want to come with me, you can.
That's normally the crowd I see it with. Those are my folks. What I saw it with, I was like, did I get invited to did I sneak into a private event that I was not invited to? Because literally they came in as groups. They came in as groups of 8 or 10 who booked out an entire row. And they're high-fiving each other. And
someone yells at you who are you, Dad? You're supposed to see the Sunday matinee screening in NoHo.
Get that dad out of here. Get him out of here. No, but these were, but they love movies. These people do.
Yeah.
And I loved watching it with them. It was so much fun. Well, let us know what you've been watching in the comments below. Gina, this has been awesome to chat about the movie business with you. This has been a great conversation. So be sure to subscribe to all the channels in the New Rockstars Network, including New Rockstars in the Breakroom. And hey, if you like what we said here, head on over to the comment section of that Breakroom upload. And if you want to engage with some of the people in there and just kind of call bullshit on them, we won't mind.
I'm in those comments and I'm fighting all the dicks.
pya, 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 pya. Go after them. Let's turn it into a war zone. No, be polite. But if you just want to say like, hey, you're not giving these hosts the proper context that they clearly had in their video.
Yeah. Or like try not just watching the first 2 minutes and then tuning out and then making a decision about what exactly we said.
Hey, if you want to do that, the YouTube algorithm won't mind. Clearly.
Yeah, leave it on in the background while you're doing dishes.
But comment down below with your thoughts on the state of Marvel right now. Again, thanks to Gina. Where can we follow you, Gina?
I'm everywhere at Gina Ippy.
All right, follow Gina there. Follow me at EA Voss. Thanks to Brian Kim for producing and editing this episode. And we'll see all you next week. Bye, everybody.